Hey guys, welcome back to Home Built, and today we start the fun stuff, sanding! As you guys saw last week, I've gone through and I've painted inside, and one of the benefits of doing it in satin black is that it's really easy to touch up. And one of the things that I've been going backwards and forwards on for a little while, trying to work out how to do it, is to properly reinforce these seat rails. As I said, I was going to reinforce them, and I've come up with a method to reinforce these seat rails so that they're a bit sturdier. They've got much better coverage onto the sheet metal. So I'm going to go through and do that now, and I'll take you through the process. So after having a further think about how I was going to support this bar is welded very strongly to either side, but it's not touching in the middle. The rear bar is welded all the way along. It's got lots of connection, and I'm not too concerned about that. It's this front bar that's basically just held on by either side. That's where the real issue is. So what I came up with is I've cut out a couple of these pieces of 3mm angle iron, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit them through like that and weld them onto the bar, and then weld all the way around the base, so it's got a nice strong connection to the floor, strong connection to the bar. It's not going to go anywhere, nicely reinforced. So that's my plan. So now it's time to just clean up a bit of metal, make a little bit of a space, and weld them on, and then I can move on from seat mounts. That's all now welded on nicely, so it means move on to the other side and yeah, do the same thing on the other side. All right, seat rails are done, so let's get on to the outside of this car. So last week you saw me rebolt on the bonnet hinges with the new torsion bars in there, and now I've got to go through and just make sure everything lines up. Again, everything's got to line up properly before I go through and paint it all, and then try and put it together and realise it doesn't line up and I have to mess up the paint. So let's bolt all this stuff down and see if I can get it adjusted just right so that it all fits. All right, that is much better. It's pretty close. It needs a little bit of final minor tweaking, but nothing drastic. It's yeah, that's all can be done on the final fitment. So now it's time to give this bonnet just a quick guide coat and then start sanding all the panels. I've been putting it off, but it's got to be done. Okay, so as you've seen, I've stripped everything back off the body again. I'm going to concentrate on doing the shell first, getting that all ready to go. And just before I do that, I'm just going to go over, black out the bars here so the interior is done, and then probably put a little bit of plastic over this just to try and cut the dust down a bit. I'm not going to mask it up properly, but just sort of try and make it so there's less cleaning later. All right, so bit of paint, then start sanding. So now I have the inside all masked up, or just loosely masked up. It's good enough for the time being. I've got myself some 320 grit sandpaper and a foam block. I'm going to start going over this whole thing wet and dry and rubbing back the shell. That's the first step. Sanding, begin. All right, I've decided that 320 straight away, wet and dry, it's too fine for starters. I've got to go in with something a little bit coarser. I'm going to go 180 dry first with a slightly bigger foam block, and then work my way down, just so that I can sort of cut down first and not be here forever. If I start too fine, you're just sanding and sanding and sanding, go through heaps of paper, and you're not actually doing anything. So start coarser and work my way finer. Let's get into it. All right, I haven't finished sanding it all yet, but just after going over the roof and this side, I found a few low spots still that I'm not entirely happy with. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go over the whole thing with some prep Sol, just spray it on. That will give me an idea of what it will look like with a clear on it, and that way I should be able to see any more imperfections and see if I'm happy. I'm not sure how well the camera's picking this up here, but even with my sanding, you can see there's low spots here, and I don't know if the camera picks up this swage line right here. It's just not sharp enough. It's not looking good enough. I'm going to get the Wheelhouse Flares out to see how much you actually see. I mean, if it's all covered up, then it's not a big issue, but I want to get it better. I'm not happy with how this is here, so let's get the Wheelhouse Flares out, check on it. Then I'm probably going to add another layer of fill over here. Yes, it's filling's not finished until it's right. The issue is there's actually not that much filler on this car. It's just that I kept going too thin each time and kept rubbing through, so it all just ended up on the ground. If I'd gone thicker to start with, it would have made life so much easier if I'd just done one big coat and sanded it back to the to what it needed to be. It's just that I sanded one bit and then made the other bit low and the other bit high, and I just kept going backwards and forwards and chasing my tail. In any case, we'll get the Wheelhouse Flares out, we'll try them, and we'll see where we go from here. So I've gone through this side the same. There's a couple of little low spots here. There's a bit of a low dip there, but I mean the Wheelhouse Flare, after sitting it on, covers over this area here. So I just need to do a couple of little bits of filler around these spots. And this side is looking good. This line here is nice and sharp on both sides. I actually had to knock the top of this one off a little bit because it was a little bit too sharp. So, which is a good thing. I've got it up to that nice sharp level. So another coat of filler and keep moving on. The roof is looking really good now, and there's just one little touch up left on this side. The back edge here is looking really good. I've basically tidied up most of it now. One thing I did notice that I don't know how I missed it before. I thought maybe it was supposed to be there, but there's a hole here in this around the rear tail light. I don't know if it's supposed to be there for something to screw into or what, but I can't imagine why it would be there, and I don't think it's supposed to be. So I'm going to weld that up now, and then just put a little skim over that, and yeah, we're getting there. I mean, there's a few extra touch-ups which I knew there would be, but overall, it's looking pretty good. All right, I'm happy with this side now. It's perfect, but I just want to double check. I'm going to go over, just do my spray preps all over it just to make sure everything is just right. The shell is almost there. All right, the back end is looking really good. I'm really happy with it. So that means moving on to the front, and I'll start just running down these front guards and see how we go here. Hopefully I get enough time to chuck some more primer onto those Hopefully I get enough time today to chuck some more primer on some parts just so it can set up over the next week or so, and then it'll be ready to actually rub back and actually be paint ready. That would be great. All right, it's looking good. I'm going to move it in the booth now and do some just touch-ups on the high fill, just so that the car is ready to roll next week, and I can sort of start finishing off the inside bits. Okay, primer's mixed up 4-to-1, cars in the booth all cleaned up. I'm going to race in and do another hit of primer over all those bits that I sanded back today so that they're ready to roll. And yeah, and then I'm pretty happy with the shell. I don't think it's going to need much more tidying up before I can actually start getting some colour on it. That would be great. All right, the booth is running, which is what all that noise is, but that was a really productive day of work. I'm quite happy. I've got another coat of primer on. It's all ready to go. So those parts, I'm pretty sure the shell of the car is ready to paint now. So that means it's time for Fun Facts with Mrs. Jeff.
Hey guys, at the end of the 1973 Australian Touring Car Championship, Ford and Chrysler pulled out of the series. Ford Australia gave the Falcon GT race cars to their drivers, who continued to race them in the 1974 series. Holden was the last remaining competitive manufacturer, and at Bathurst there was a strong showing with a Monaro GTS, 7 Torana XG1s, and 13 of the new larger V8 Torana SLR 5000s. By lap 85, the two Holden dealer team Toranas, Peter Brock and Colin Bond, were 4 laps clear of the field. Unfortunately, the Bond Torana was black flagged because of smoke coming from an oil leak, and the Brock Torana was also pulled over because a piston broke due to an oil pump failure. That left John Goster in the race in a Falcon GT with an SLR 5000 coming second. Smaller classes were won by a Mini Cooper S, a Mazda RX-3, and an Alfa Romeo GTV.
All right, another day down. I put a lot of time into it this one this week, a bit of extra time, but the shell is, I'm really happy with it. Hopefully that means next week, if everything runs to plan, I might actually even be able to start putting some colour on the engine bay and stuff. There's still a bit of masking and stuff to do, so I'm not going to hold my breath, but maybe.
Famous last words.
Yeah.
I feel you shouldn't even say that because you might, it's like, you know, tempting fate.
That's true.
Okay.
In any case, it's getting there.
Yep. So as always, if you're enjoying the channel, please like and subscribe. Help us out by merchandise available for sale, and you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And there are a lot of bloopers this episode, like
Yes.
a lot.
Apologise for the rain.
It's
It
really
is
noisy.
so loud in here with
Noisy.
this. Rain is
cold.
bucketing down, and in a tin shed, it's really loud.
But tomorrow's the first day of spring, so
Woohoo! Spring! Finally! It's not getting any warmer yet, though.
anyway,
All right, see you guys.
bye. 73 Car Championship Tour. Australian Car Touring Championship. Car Championship Touring.
Touring Car Championship.
Car Touring Champion. I did it. Yes. We're gonna go home now.